That real fine. We ready?
So it's not separate.
Mine been.
Last time we had.
Well, you had all these things, I think you over. Every time a year costs my driveway. Link was it? Sure. Someone. So.
Seven.
Attorney.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome.
Uh,
We are in public session at this time. We've already had closed session. We've done set pledge of allegiance. So we are ready to dive right in here. Good evening to all. We'll start off this evening with a motion to approve the following minutes, noting that the February 6th, 2025 open session minutes are still in review. So we're talking about the January 16th, 2025 meeting minutes, the January 16th, 2025 closed session minutes, January 28th meeting minutes, the January 28th closed session minutes, and the February 6th closed session minutes. So everybody on the council had a chance to look at the minutes and make any adjustments. All right, then I would entertain a motion, please. So second, all in favor, please say aye. Aye, motion carried. Administrative reports, I'll just highlight a couple of things here from the administrative reports. Last month we tons of trash left the city that cost about $11,000. Recycling cost us about $3,500 last month. Our hotel tax was about $16,000. Clerk's office took in $36,000, so that's a lot of parking, resident parking permits, the beginning of pet licenses, the beginning of landlord registration. So that's a nice healthy number to start the year with, and very much so used. Our parking revenue for the month was $32,600. It's down a couple $1,000 from last year, so I'm pleased with that number, given how cold it's been, and given the bridge closure. So were there any questions about any of the administrative reports from the council? All right, I'll make a motion to approve the administrative reports. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. So one statement that I'd like to read into the record before we open the meeting of the public participation and constituent concerns. I just want to note that on February, as I noted in my Lambertville Matters column this morning, on February 10th, KFB Homes filed a motion with the Superior Court of New Jersey to intervene and to rescind conditional judgment of compliance and oppose. The motion's been scheduled for March 14th. The city's affordable housing attorney Kelly Grant will file opposition papers by March 6th. Council will review those before she submits them. She will also request oral arguments. KFB has 3 days to reply to that opposition. Following that, the judge will decide whether oral arguments are in order, and we make at some point issue a review. So with that, I'd like to within the public participation constituent concern portion of the meeting. The first one, as we always request, if you have mobility issues, if you could please step to the podium, state your name and address. 3 minutes of uninterrupted time for comments or concerns. Lindsay will give you a 30-second warning.
Good evening, everybody. Paul Stevens, 39 Quarry. I know there's a lot more pressing issues, but this resolution 47, 2025 about the boathouse. In the resolution, it says, talking about the area being delineated in the application form and the sketch of the licensed premises attached hitherto. There's nothing attached to the agenda. There was nothing in the folder for today's meeting that I could find. No, it's a nit, but wanted to see what they were talking about doing. Okay.
So can you address that? I know to explain it, but I'm going to explain what they're doing.
Have it if you want to see it.
Well, I mean, I would like to have seen it before the meeting. So,
I'm always available if you call.
So basically that particular resolution is to expand the liquor license from the boathouse to the restaurant. It's one, I believe it's one lot. And it's something that they're interested in doing so that they can serve liquor in the restaurant rather than having people bring their own over. So that's basically in a nutshell. Have I missed anything there, Bill?
And it's, the expansion is just for the premises that they can't have, there's a walkway.
Can't hear you.
There's a public walkway between, even though it's a private lot, there are people do walk across, they can't have anything outside, it has to be within the two premises or anything, so.
When you say two premises,
It's one,
do you
One
count
place.
the tent that goes up seasonally and then you factor that in?
you'll see on the way it's drawn on the app, and it says there too. The application not supposed to be attached to the resolution, but on the application, they have a sketch. See from there. that-
Sketch.
yeah.
Is it the same owner who owns both of those now?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes, it is.
Boathouse and.
Yeah.
So it's basically similar to, it's a wider license, similar to the thing I drank every. Like the station has, where they can serve
yes,
in any building more or less on the.
everything is in compliance with the regulations.
I'm Jeff Tittle, 33 Wilson Street. I just wanted to start out and say that maybe now people will understand why I've been coming here and other people have been coming here for the last 9 months. Because I've been through this before and I've been through building remedy lawsuits. And I see these things coming. And the inaction by this council and by the mayor in particular, since planning board said that the site for the 200 units was inconsistent with the master plan, where the mayor voted for it and Commissioner Kaminsky voted against it. Instead of going down the same path and doing nothing, or doing very little, we needed to move quickly. And now we're going to go to court. When you have an intervention and you're not prepared, because we don't have a report from the engineer saying why the hill is inappropriate for the development. We don't have an alternative plan by the planner for other locations for round 3. And even though the law A4 allows you, without going to court, to change your plan if you think the site is not viable, we decided to go forward. We have a committee that's meeting. We have to have this done before our papers are filed. Otherwise, you're going to walk into court and they're going to say, well, you have all this development in town, this luxury, overlay zones, the police station, Boston Farm, and you have no plan. And they're going to get in, and then they're going to come after us, and then we're going to have a builder's remedy suit. And so I think this is time to act. Instead of worrying about buyers, we need to worry about getting a plan in place. In fact, many of us in the community feel we have to hire our own attorney and intervene, which we're working on, because I don't think we can trust this council and this mayor to uphold what we feel is most appropriate. I had to do that in Ringwood years ago because under pressure, they tried to settle. We took the case over. They had to follow us. We won it. Countryside versus Ringwood, you check on it. I feel that we're into the same situation where we have a hill, we had time, we've had 9 months, we haven't moved, and unfortunately, I understand how Hovnanian works, and they have good lawyers and they're sharks, and we're very vulnerable right now. So I hope we get our act together in the next 2 weeks and get a plan in place and get a report in place and show why we need to move from the hill. Thank you.
Bill, do you want me to step down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
He said,
hi, Larry Wall, Archer and Griner. I'm an attorney. I represent parties who intervened in a litigation that's the subject of the resolution 62-2025. It had to do with land development on the hill, a mistakenly permitted pickleball court built 20 feet from my client's property and 60 feet from their front door. My clients intervened or my clients appeared with witnesses at the September 28th zoning board hearing. Had they not appeared, I assume that there would be pickleball up there right now, and it's very loud. If anybody has played pickleball, it's a loud sport, and it's 60 feet from your house or 20 feet from where you are a gardener. As one of my clients is a full corporating is a
horticulturalist and has an active gardens, having a pickleball court 20 feet from your gardening, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. 7 days a week can be problematic. So there's a settlement for the council, and I want to read just one line from the settlement. It says, interveners, those are my clients, have declined to participate in the settlement. Now, I don't know who wrote that or where that came from, but that is not the case. We did participate in the settlement, but then we were locked out of the settlement, and we're not being, and our recommendations and our experts report on several recommendations that would bring the sound down have not been considered. And in fact, I circulated those on December 12th and January 22nd to the zoning board, to council, to your council, to the zoning board's council, and it falls on deaf ears, and I find that problematic. Additionally, the settlement agreement that you're planning to approve through resolution also has a procedure built into it for this hearing that's coming up before the zoning board on the 27th of this month, if it goes forward. And it provides me with 5 minutes to address my client's concerns and 3 minutes to cross-examine witnesses. It's outrageous, and I don't think that's an appropriate limitation in the settlement agreement. And I'd ask that be revised. 30 seconds. I like that time. And I know there's a financial component to this. I understand the financial component. I think it's great because this is not an issue that arose as a result of my clients' actions. They just happen to end up with a pickleball court on top of them that needs to be have an appropriate sound barrier. And I would hope that the zoning requires that. But from what I see from the settlement agreement, it looks like it's a done deal. It's a rubber stamp. And it's really unfortunate because my clients did want to participate in the settlement, provided a report with recommendations that seem to have fallen on deaf ears. I don't even know if that report was ever shared with you or the members of the zoning. So I have my 3-minute time limitations have passed. I'm sorry if I sound angry, but it's my job. And I hope that you do not vote on this and that you carry this settlement agreement until we see what happens at the zoning board. Thank you. Yes.
Dave Bird, 255 Brunswick Avenue in Lambertville. Back again, all right, being here regularly. Speaking about the Fisherman's Bar, all right, the Sharon and I are supporters of Fisherman's Bar. We contribute to their efforts, and we believe in what they do. All right, but on the issue of the now 4-year lease of the property, all right, and is that property still going to be sold at some point? Okay, is a question. The second question is, who pays the utilities, right? Because if we pay all the utilities, they're responsible for maintenance, but it doesn't say in the lease that the utilities are paid for by the tenant. All right, so who's paying utilities? Because there's a lot of big refrigeration up there, and could eat the $1,000 a month that we're getting very, very quick. And so the other thing is, again, I come out of business. All right, this is now a 4-year lease. All right, there has been no escalation. Okay, in the 4 years. All right, I don't know who wrote the original agreement. It's not you, Bill. But I think we've gone. You probably have gone on the basis that, well, we're just helping out. This is going to be short term, and now it isn't. All right, a 3% escalation. All right, would not break any organization. All right, 3-year escalation of the $1,000 would bring in another additional $1,100. Okay, to the city. I would suggest that we resolve the issue of, if it isn't, it needs to be resolved, the issue of who pays the utilities. All right, and see if they being partners, would like to help support the taxpayers, all right, by paying, an escalated, amount. And again, we could also talk about, is $1,000 a good deal for a business location that big? All right, and with the parking. So just some thoughts, that I came to with. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll address a couple of those things if I may. We are still planning on moving forward with the sale. And I was gonna give an update later in the meeting, but I'll just provide that now. So, I think I spoke about this possibly at the last meeting or within a couple of meetings. It's very complex because we've got to do the subdivision for Fisherman's Mark while we're also trying to work through the final Green Acres requirements. So I'll be meeting next week with the Fisherman's Mark's engineers and architects to do a stakeout of the property. And then the surveyors will come probably within the next 2 weeks, survey the property. Once the property is the proposed property is surveyed, then Fisherman's Mark attorney will lay their plan over the surveyed part of the property, and then we can begin kind of the rest of the paperwork. Is that right, Phil? Yeah. So we are working through it. It is taking time because it's a very complex. It's complex. We also need to dedicate a road in order to get the Green Acres funding. So there was a couple of different questions about how to do that and provide the easements at the same time. We've got it all worked out, so we're moving forward with all of this now. So I expect the pace to pick up on this in terms of the sale and moving forward. Fisherman's Mark pays the utilities for the building. The utilities, some of the utilities are connected to the log cabin, but the water's off in the log cabin. So Fisherman's Mark is just paying for the sewer bill, the water, and the electric for the farm market. And they always have since we signed the original lease. So I think that's all I have. I mean, the lease is just a tenant, we decided to, well, I propose that we consider, and we'll have a comment, but we'll have a public hearing on this tonight when we consider the ordinance, to do it month by month rather than another year, just because we need that flexibility as we're kind of wending our way through the process here of the sale. And I have noted that Fisherman's Mark intent is to pay more than the appraised value of the property. Fisherman's Mark has agreed to pay more than the appraised value of the property. So I've said that a couple of times, and I'll just say that one more time. They're also paying. They've set up an escrow account, so they'll be paying for the survey and so I don't know. I don't know if we worked out all of it, but the redevelopment. Not sure, but they definitely set up an escrow, and they agreed to pay the cost of kind of the development of the property.
Thank you for the update.
Sure. Anyone else? Is anybody online? How many people do we have online? 24. Welcome, everybody. We're glad you're here. Thanks for coming.
Judy, would you like to go ahead?
Judy Gleason, 86 North Union Street. So I wanted to be there tonight, but I wasn't able to be, and I just want to say, assuming that you can hear me, which I guess you can, the issue that was brought up earlier about the development on the Hill and the March 14th motion to intervene underscores in a huge way the fact that we need to do something that shows that we're not just jerking the cord around, we're not playing games, we really do want affordable housing. And even if it's not the development on the Hill, which is pretty much going to be opposed by the city, by the residents of the city, we need to look at the other options. I've been saying this since last spring. Every time it comes up, I say, we're going to run out of time. And they're going to say, it's too late. You have to accept this. And here we are. And we have a couple of weeks. And we've been not doing anything. We've not had a plan by our planner. We haven't looked at the other sites. I don't know why. I'm not going to try to guess why. I just know planner in town has got to look at the other sites we have available, has got to look at the other properties we have available. And we can't end the meeting tonight by saying, okay, thanks very much for your comments. We need to take action tonight to be sure that when you go to court on the 14th, you can say, yes, Your Honor, we have looked at the following places and we are proceeding in those other areas to find affordable housing. Thank you.
Judy, I agree with a lot of your comments there. I just want to make sure everyone is aware too, that this is like a very preliminary motion. They have standing. The judge, I don't believe is ruling on the ultimate issue in the case. And so, I agree, we need a plan. We need to put it together very fast, but I do think we have a little bit more time than, the motion, hearing date.
Yeah, I'd just like to add though, that time is of the essence and we need to have a plan. And thank you, Judy, Jeff, Dave, or whoever. I hear what you said. I do echo what you say that, I've worked, I don't like to duplicate, but I've worked in these matters and I know that being prepared and having a town that comes in and, you know, makes a move and explains it. And then has a way to fix what's going on in the spirit of providing affordable housing is really important. And I think that we need to be doing that, like we should have done it yesterday. I've asked that we do it like right away, like now, like tomorrow, and that we are able to repeat like our mantra, the reasons why we're here, what we did, and what we're going to do to fix it. We have to be saying that and talking to the court about that at every step of the way. So the best defense is a good offense, and I urge us to do that, you know, post haste.
I agree with Karen's point and that she's making about being prepared for the worst, and maybe we can come up with a plan that will satisfy our needs in satisfying our fair share obligations. So I can't speak for everybody else here, but I know how committed I am to get fair share housing to the numbers that it has, that the city has focused on for years before this administration and the past administration as well. And I feel the frustration that you're feeling out there, because I feel it as well. So, you know, we have another opportunity to get our fair share obligations met in perhaps a different way or another way. So it's very important that we are prepared going forward. So.
I also agree with my fellow council members that we do have to act sooner rather than later. We have let a lot of time go by, and that's unfortunate, but we are where we are, and lamenting over the past isn't going to help us. So we need to have a commitment to producing an alternate approach, because we can't just walk away from something and have nothing to offset it. So I support Councilwoman Kaminsky and Blythe and Stegman's.
And you know, I just want to add to just the intent and the spirit of like my intent is that I feel that it's our duty to rigorously defend this community and what this community has articulated and the things that we've articulated back, I think, in terms of what we think that our environmental rights are and the issues with the site. And, you know, we're not being negligent, we're being dutiful to ourselves as neighbors to protect each other, and that this community is entitled to a rigorous defense. which is going on the offense, but, and part of doing that is not only having a plan, but being able to clearly articulate the issues with the site, why we had to, abandon it, what we want to do to fix it, and how we want to move on to provide affordable housing. This is a welcoming community. We want to do affordable housing. We always have had in the past. We've welcomed, Habitat for Humanity with open arms, we're that type of community. So we, and everyone deserves that defense from us included.
Yes, absolutely. What everyone said, obviously, we did have executive director from Habitat here earlier this evening in closed session to talk about some potential project of Warren Park. So moving forward in discussions with that, and speaking to the planner tomorrow, hopefully we'll be able to come up with something concrete for the next week or two. So stay tuned as always.
Good evening, everybody. John Towns, 14 Hancock. I love the positive. Now I just want to see the action follow on. Have the layers been put back in place that Julia pulled off the books, leaving only the high school site? Cool. Has anybody on the council made a motion to put those back where they should have been, where they never should have been taken off? I don't think so. I haven't seen anything in the newsletter from the city about it. Anything in the meeting minutes. Again, I really hope what you guys are saying is great, but if we don't close or open those layers back up, there's nowhere to fill but the high school site. I mean, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I know if you don't give yourself that other option, nothing's going to happen but a builder's remedy. So now it's on the council and the mayor, get this squared away. Tonight, stop playing around. You don't have any time left. This was brought up 9 months ago, specifically by me. You all went, yep. Nothing. Next thing, thank you for all the work you're doing. I do appreciate it. I understand it's tough. I hope no one is disrespectful to you. But I understand our frustration. And the old adage, you can't fight City Hall. We've been fighting City Hall. It's gotten us nowhere. It's frustrating. I understand legal obligations. That aside, the next order of business is replace the sound system you guys have. Because when you try to listen online, it cuts out. You get into it, so Mayor, you're supposed to say something, it cut out. Done. Couldn't hear anything else. So that would be helpful for all us Zoomers or whatever you kids call us these days. I don't know. Anyway, thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thanks, John. I believe that the only overlay that was removed was the one at the Clausen property. So I believe that the what's referred to as the bird overlay and the 4-point overlay are still intact. So nothing has changed with those. Those were third round mechanisms. The only one that was removed during Mayor Novecchio's term, but actually never got put on, I don't think, right? So
Correct.
it happened during the meeting that the mayor removed the Clausen overlay kind of during the meeting. So
What is it?
It was 2018, no, it was in November, December 2018, that's from memory, but it was late in the year. And it was to add the Clausen property to it, and it was not passed.
right.
But the other overlays were still there. They're still in place.
Right, I know that Cindy's right, because I have the minutes, I don't have them with me tonight, but I did have them at one time, they're in my affordable housing folder. So, that was the only one that was, never put on.
Yeah,
So-
and that was at the Clausen property. Clausen family came to a meeting and asked us not to do it. They unfortunately received a lot of negative comments and press, and it was a hard time for them. So the governing body did not move forward with that particular piece of it, but all other overlays are in place. They're in our affordable housing thing.
Is there anyone else online?
I just wanted to comment that there were other actions taken in 2020. February 19th, 2020, it was a planning board meeting that took action on that. And I remember it distinctly. I didn't understand what was going on, but I knew it wasn't good. And there was something about removing it. Moving it over, it had to do with me taking off the overlay. Or, yeah, well, you know what, maybe it was the council member, council meeting.
I think it was a condemnation, perhaps.
Condemnation, yes, that was.
So I'll tell you, there was a member of the Boston family in the room,
Okay.
track of a decision moving forward to remove whatever there was.
But there was a condemnation on the high school. And that's what was removed. We continued with the redevelopment, but when we did the redevelopment agreement, it was with the intent to condemn and take the property. So that we still move forward with that overlay, but did not move forward with condemnation considered.
Yeah, that was before my time. But I know there was
That was
keen
done.
interest in 2020 from the Clausen family to have some governing body action taken to eliminate any, I don't know how to say it, any attachment of an overlay.
But we
Go
started
back and-
purchasing that property in 2020.
Not till later in the year.
2021.
Yeah, but we
The
started
purchase-
talking.
The contract was in 2020.
Right.
Purchase was done in 2021 in April.
I can only tell you, I just read through our affordable housing, the overlays are all there as our third round unmet need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have very distinct reasons for removing, so without going.
John, the one thing you were talking about fighting City Hall, I just want to tell you that all the stuff that you guys have been talking about, educating everyone about the environmental issues up there, that's part of the record, and that is stuff that we are going to be utilizing as we defend this. So it was very helpful, and we appreciate everyone coming out and educating us about these issues. So without that, we would not be in hopefully the position I think we're going to be in. So
It's a good point. Thank you for saying that, Councilor. Great.
Online, I interrupted.
That's okay. Do we have anybody else online? Okay. So very motion to close the public comment period, please.
So,
Second. All in favor, please say aye. Thank you. Consent agenda. Resolutions on the consent agenda are considered routine and shall be enacted by one motion. Should any member of the city council seek separate discussion of any item, the item shall be removed and discussed separately. So we are considering in the consent agenda resolutions number 44-2025 through 60-2025. Are there any questions or issues with the council on any of these resolutions? No. Okay. Hearing none, then I would ask for a motion to adopt the consent agenda. Is there a second?
second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye. 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 Okay. That's the end of the consent agenda. I'm going to turn this next resolution over to Council President as I am eligible to vote.
Resolution number 61-2025, a resolution to authorize temporary placement of an opioid awareness bench at City Hall. Whereas the Drug Free Task Force and Safe Coalition and One Voice of Huntington requested approval to place an opioid awareness bench at City Hall for a period of 1 month at City Hall. And whereas the governing body of the city of Lambertville would like to join with the Drug Free Task Force and Safe Coalition and One Voice of Huntington to raise awareness about opioid addiction. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the governing body of the city of Lambertville that the placement of an opioid awareness bench at City Hall for 1 month during the spring of 2025 is hereby authorized. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? I never did that before. Hi.
Thank you, Council President. Great, moving on to resolution number 62-2025. It's a resolution approving a settlement agreement and release with Betty Johnson and Betty, I'm sorry, Ben Johnson and Betty Gidio. Ask Councilman Stegman to step off the dais, please. Anybody else had a chance to look at this? And I'm wondering if there are any final questions or if somebody would like to make a motion. Motion?
Second.
All right, Amber, roll call please, Cindy.
Yes. Councilwoman Kaminsky.
Yes.
Council President Lambert,
Yes.
Councilman Lyde,
Yes.
Mayor Novus.
Yes. All right, Councilman, if you'd like to return to the desk. Could you, join us on through the return to the desk?
I'm sorry, I'm over here.
You come back to your seat.
I don't know if my chair is still warm.
All right, we asked for everybody to have a chance to look at the bills list. Right, someone to make a motion to approve the bill. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Discussion items. So we're just gonna have a few things to discuss this evening, as we move forward into consideration of the fourth round. I think what we have, in my view, one of the low hanging fruit, is to de-restrict the library. This will require an ordinance, for the rental of the apartment. Just wanted to check in with the council, to see if anybody has any contingent questions. We're potentially drafting an ordinance to move forward with the deed restriction for the library. It's a one remedy in there, which will go, I suppose, forthcoming. Okay, good. Well, let's move forward. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so I'm going to instruct Bill, I guess, to work on, is it you who does that? Or
The preparation of deed restriction.
yeah, okay, thanks. Next is just I just have a question for the council about cell phones and laptops. So, as I noted, I moved from my personal phone to a separate phone line, which I found to be very helpful in terms of maintaining my public record, text and that kind of thing. But also, previous with my personal computer a couple of years ago to using a city-owned computer. I just wanted to make sure that if any of the council wanted to avail themselves of this, I think for me, it worked out really, it's working out very well. But I just wanted to check in with the council to see if there's any interest in anybody having a city phone or a city computer for your work.
I have no interest at all. It works fine. We work off like a city desktop, so everything is captured within. Desktop, so. Feel really comfortable that there's a, backup to whatever. I do on city business.
All right.
Yeah, it's bad enough we have one phone, right? Yeah, no, I agree that, we have separate email for council. That's great. I can access it, through my tablet, my laptop. I don't have it on my phone. That's just because I'm lazy. And, same thing with the Google Drives. Material that we need. So, yeah.
Councilman Slater, do you have any interest in?
No, I can't even control this one. Having another one will make it twice as hard.
Get you an intern.
All right, good. Thanks, everybody. I just wanted to see if there was a bit.
But thank you for asking.
Of course. Dog waste management. Council President and I talked about this recently. It's been kind of back on in the minds of some of the public, and so I just wanted to bring it up. Obviously, we put notices in Lambertville Matters and how people will look at cleanup after their dogs. I don't know that we have any other brilliant ideas in terms of.
I do.
Okay, well, okay. Please, go ahead.
Get video posting.
Oh, no, I'm way ahead of you. Okay. We could collect a DNA sample of every pet from the time of registration. And then when there's an offensive deposit, you run the DNA. They do tick files all the time. It's like find murderers when the doggy DNA. So, hey,
I saw that episode on Law and Order. What's on the dog?
ways. We are looking at beautification or waste things. There are special waste things that you can get for dog waste, and if we put them adjacent to the canal path and stuff, it might save on the dog waste that is put into the cans only get picked up once a week, and like our can on York Street, cause you come up from the,
Notorious.
you know, is a notorious stinker, you know, and I don't. Lester does notice that I do move it from time to time, because it just like smell you when you come out the door, but then the post office moves it back. Because but it is something like, you know, around there that, you know, that they don't do, and I've availed myself of that in New Hope. You know, they do it along the path, but it is kind of a an idea when we're looking at like street furniture and, you know, kind of.
Put it on your
finding,
porch.
Unfortunately,
Beautification. Sometimes people, I will say, put that little baggie on my porch. No, I'll throw it. Oh, no, but yeah, it just happens sometimes. People leave them in little places,
Well,
but these little, you know, containers, right, were big.
if you walk up Swan Street to Cottage Hill, it is notorious.
You got one too.
And there is an individual who adamantly, defiantly refuses to clean up. And has for over 20 years.
Boy, that's some fun.
That's why I'm saying, my son complains. He has a pretty derogatory term for those people. I won't repeat it. But yeah, he complains about it all the time. It's like a guy. So it's pretty bad. Is this something our animal control officer can?
No,
help out with?
because, and I think Lieutenant Brown would probably be better to speak to this, but when I spoke to him about it, he said you have to see the person doing it in order to write, you know, and, that's hard, because if they know someone's looking, they're not going to do it.
No, that's
Especially if
exactly.
it's a really small dog.
No, it's not.
Well, I can talk to Marianne Borsch, the chair of Parks and Rec again. Parks and Rec Commission, looked at potential, you know, kind of dog, you know, station, dog waste bag station.
We need a
couple of
big
years ago.
cottage.
But yeah, I just really, you know, find the back, place for them to put it that closes, you know, like, you know, cause the bags are gone. Yeah, I don't find the problem being that they're bagless, it's just that they're bagged and then they stink anyway, you know, great, right?
Well, you know, we
That's
could,
Lester.
you know, I could conceivably talk to the DPW and see if there's some solution where we could just put one central location near City Hall, because the City Hall
There's-
is also,
There's
you know,
few
the lid.
places like where there are like, especially coming up from the canal, from the towpath,
Right,
you know.
Maybe
like
we could
there,
put signage up on both sides of
There's
whether you're
signage on
coming
Swan
or
Street.
going and all that, at the entrance.
But yeah, I mean, that's great, but the dogs still poop. And no, it's just the volume of having somewhere for it to go, you know, because no one's gonna carry it with that the can
Yeah.
closes. Like,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah,
that's
there's
like, there's different things,
Right,
yeah.
there's people that clean up but don't pick up. And then there's just people who don't even do any of that. And Swan Street is the latter.
Right.
To the
But
ladder.
yeah, you don't wanna bring it home, yeah,
Yes.
you're gonna put it in
It's
the
not
can,
we go
right?
to the city, I mean, it's on our,
I'm
Right.
playing for the DNA.
okay, all right.
I like.
All right, I think that we've had at least one good idea here, and that is the DNA, but I don't know if we're gonna be able to work that into the budget this year.
I'll talk to Michael.
In all seriousness, and it's not people in the room, but I'll write one of my less pleasant reminders and never go matters again. And we do this every year, it seems like. It's annoying and it's unsanitary, and we have an ordinance that, you know.
You have an ordinance that you're not supposed to put it in one of the city garbage cans too, but people do. So. It's horrible about it, but it's
Right, that's luck.
it's
Like
like,
our household waste.
it's, you know, but it's the playground. I mean, Karen, you must remember your kids playing football, coming home with it all over their pants. I mean, we hear it all the time from.
Yeah.
It's time for. Stuff.
Thanks. So, we had some public comment at the last meeting about cannabis retail hours, and I just wanted to give the council members an opportunity to, if they're willing to kind of state, kind of whether they would consider expanding retail hours in the central business district, because that would require an ordinance and we don't want to put forward. Yeah. Yeah. So, the remaining three council people and myself, I don't know if you are prepared to share a viewpoint on this. It does require an ordinance, so I don't want to move forward with an ordinance if there's no possibility that it's not going to have any council support, so.
Yeah, I'm happy to put my position, and it hasn't changed. You know, I think we've got to look at the Church Street property a little bit different than the other one that hasn't opened up yet. You know, Baked by the River has been open for over a year. You know, the work that they've done in that neighborhood has been pretty substantial. A lot of the neighbors have come out and spoken in support previously at other council meetings. They referenced that there's a bar directly across the street that has later hours. You know, I haven't heard anyone come in and say, we don't think this is right for that property, for Baked by the River. What I have heard is that, you know, people are concerned about the other property, which is reasonable because they haven't opened yet. We don't know how many people are gonna be there. There's a lot of unknowns. You know, I unfortunately, they're in the same district, and I guess I don't know how we deal with that. But I think we need to, you know, have our attorney help us with that if able to, but if we're able to increase those hours for Baked by the River, I have no problem with that. It has community support. It makes sense to me. So I would be in favor of that.
I think Bill wanted, if you don't, we'll hold off just a minute, Bill wanted to speak to this. I think we talked about it a little bit before, but I don't remember whether there's mechanism.
I actually had a conversation with the attorney for one of the licensees late this afternoon, so I haven't been able to put anything together for the council just yet, but there may be a way, if there may be a way to amend the zoning ordinance to permit businesses to go back in front of the planning board and get another condition of their approval on a case-by-case basis. And in that instance, I think it may work. I need to look at it a little further, and I plan to do that quickly. And the attorney actually offered to send me some proposed language, you know, for he needs, you know, a lot of his practices in these businesses, so he's tried to do this before. So curious to see what his proposal is, and then maybe we can work off that and find a way to have this apply on a case by case or a license by license basis. So,
And that's really the only way.
I think so.
Yeah, so we did talk about this before. We really can't do one without the other, except for this.
No, I think I don't think we can do it just for one. I think we have to make the option available to all of them, and then it would be on them to go back to the board and have their approval amended to allow for the extra time.
Would that include any cannabis retail? So regardless of zone?
No, we just do it because
the
the conditions of approval are, the conditional use, the way it's set up is specific by zone. So
Okay.
if it's the council's preference to only have that in the central business district, that's fine.
Okay, great.
I do want to add one other thing to what I said before. I am not in support of changing the Union Chill hours. That's a totally different area, much more residential there. Those neighbors have contacted me. They are concerned about that. Very opposite than the Church Street neighbors that have all been supported, so.
So Bill, you're saying that with what you're saying, would it go as a conditional use request or appeal? I'm not really sure what the right word is, to the zoning board? And would council take, would we need to amend? Would council need to take any action?
It'd be two parts. The council would have to amend the zoning ordinance
Okay.
to allow this action.
Okay,
And then it would be up to the license holder to make the application to the board in order to get their approval. And, you know, that would be an amended application, so require notice to everyone within the 200-foot area. So everyone around would have the opportunity to come and speak their mind and the board consider their options. So it really, I thought it was an interesting idea. I want to look at it a little further, but if there's a way to do this, this is something similar to this is probably
Good.
so I guess I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that by, like, how is that different than just amending the ordinance for that zone? It's the same, right?
Well, the ordinance right now has the set times of operation and they have it 7 PM.
Right.
What the language that we would add to amend the ordinance would say that something to the effect of if after a licensee has been in operation for 6 months, a year, however long, they have the option to apply to the board to get an amended approval to allow them to stay open until 8, 9 o'clock, whatever.
Okay, so there would be, I guess that's why you call it a conditional use.
Yeah.
Pretty smart.
So,
So they have to meet certain criteria to move forward with this request.
they'd have to demonstrate that,
Well,
as everyone's, I mean.
Okay, because one of, the thing I continue to be concerned about is that the second retailer or business in that zone is not open. There was, as you probably recollect, there was great concern from the residents about what the traffic flow, impact would be. And until they're open, you don't know, right? You don't know what that is. So I would be, for that reason, I'm reluctant to just say, yeah, let's move ahead, without, let's just move ahead, full stop. So.
And I think the qualification is that the licensee wouldn't be eligible to apply for this.
Right,
Until
you're
they
saying,
for-
right, with what you're saying, they have to be open for a year, and that's a little bit different.
And then there will be a hearing where people will be able to come and talk about that.
Mhm.
Planning board.
Yeah, the planning board.
Right.
So it would be open for a while. The people that live around there would be given notice that there would be a
Mhm.
meeting,
Mhm.
opportunity to be heard,
Mhm.
and then they would make a decision. So
As well with the ordinance, right, that people could come in and talk about.
Absolutely, the ordinance amendment would have to go to the planning board for consistency review as well, so there would be review there.
If there's a way that would work, Bill. That we. A legal way to do it, to set up parameters. So we don't have to wait until any other. Retail business. Who didn't open yet. Specifically, we're talking about one. They would have to conform to whatever the guidelines are that we're gonna prepare just for licensees in general in the CBD.
Yes.
And so it won't automatically trigger one who is not open to gain 2 hours or 3 hours.
Correct, yeah, they would,
It's a way to, it's a legal and defensible way to allow that to happen.
based on the discussion I had, it sounds like, I wanna see the proposed language and look at it a little bit further, but. The way I understand it, if we put, there's a rational basis for why we're having. A licensee that is just going whenever they open, allow them to open for 6 months or a year, let the community and the surrounding neighbors. Get a sense of what
Good.
if any change there is to their. Because of the new business there, and then if the license holder wants, they can make the application for the extra hour or two pursuant to the language in the ordinance. Any business that's been open, people are used to it by now, and then they'd be eligible to make the application. And whenever, if the council decides to go forward with this ordinance amendment, so it's an interesting idea, and I think it's a way to. If there's support for allowing, these additional conditions, I think it's a way to do it.
I think it makes a lot of sense personally, and I support it in theory. Obviously, I need to see the language and make sure that it's appropriate and legal. And when you think about the reissuance yearly of the license, right? We reissue the license every year based on a set of criteria and all that. So this would, in my mind, is just kind of an extension of what the business is doing already, right? And a way to acknowledge the transition from something that we've been slightly guarded about, something that had proved itself time and time again in terms of its responsiveness and commitment and all of that. Okay, so we're gonna wait to hear from Bill, about this and, we'll follow up. But it seems like there's some support for that idea and that, that will, obviously, pending Bill's, legal analysis of there's time, it takes some time to do that, right? We know that it's an ordinance takes a couple of months and then we have to, move to the planning board, et cetera. So, but sounds like a nice way in, I think. All right, Councilman Krasinski, did you do anything on pedestrian safety since last meeting?
Well, only that, I guess, since we didn't really cover it last meeting, in keeping with the whole pedestrian safety initiative, I met with DOT a few weeks ago, who indicated that they would be happy to work with us on, public pedestrian safety improvements on their state highways, which is, Main Street, and then, of course, Bridge Street going over the bridge. So we talked hypothetically, because they will work with us once, we're gonna have to pass a resolution to do so, but on a plan that, that they will, at their expense, they'll enhance the crosswalks, so they can use special paint, and they do use special, reflective pedestrian safety signs, at the crosswalks. They'll also, to work with the timing. So what would happen at, let's say, Bridge and Main by the gas stations, then Bridge and North Union, that the pedestrian go sign, you get a little bit of a head start. So then the car that's queued to make the right will see you. I mean, it sounds like it's putting you out there, but they say that it's actually pedestrian safety to have the pedestrian go first and then have the light turn, because then the driver will see the pedestrian, where if it happens at the same time, the driver makes the right into the pedestrian. And I know we've had that happen, by the gas stations before. My neighbor got hit there. So we've talked about working on some of them, that they would do that. And, even as far back by Nicola's and the intersection down at Swan Street too, which is, because that's technically 179, right? And we can look up, yep. And so, and then another aspect that they can also do, which has a small amount of cost sharing, is along Ely Field and by the school, they can put up flashing beacons. And so we would have something, not just when Vern's there for school, at the beginning and end, but we could have a flashing beacon. And we'd have to take a look at one or two. I know, what would be most appropriate, and they'll work with us on that. And then the other thought that I had too was, we did talk, since we have a visually impaired resident on York, we've talked about perhaps, and I have to talk to DOT about this, a flashing beacon there and enhancing that crosswalk, particularly because we know that resident is there. So if we kind of go ahead and agree to some of this, the beacons are really fairly inexpensive. I think our cost share would be $15,000. So, which is a lot less than thinking, that it's something in six figures. The type of, we talked a little bit further about, the voice activated, more, upgraded, visually impaired, talks to you, pedestrian safety, which is much more state of the art. There's a bigger cost to that. But we could look at some of those, and they work out with us a plan at one or two locations. But we could also look to our legislators for some special funding for that in years to come, when we have that as a phase two, because again, relative to, $1 million project, it would be cost a lot less, of maybe 100 or, for 200 from them, but that would be a possible like phase two. But the first order of business is to get, this cost efficient pedestrian safety down. We have more and more people coming to town. we have, you know, a ton of kids, right, crossing there that, you know, that's been forever. We all know about running across the road there, you know, to get to Ramblers or baseball or just to do that, or even walking your dog, you know? So, I look forward to working with them. They're great to work with and this is the year for pedestrian safety. Governor has even talked a lot about it and, you know, there's plans and visions here. The whole goal is to not have any incidents in your town, so. I hope to come back with, you know, work with DOT to come back with a full, you know, blown plan, but based on those concepts.
This is the dovetail in, I was out of state and they actually had the voice telling you when the light turned. It said, you know, green light, cross, you know, instead of counting down the numbers as we do when we watch, there was a voice also to make sure for the safety of people that were impaired.
Yeah, and they'll cue those too, to start the pedestrian early, so then the car doesn't, you know.
It was pretty interesting to stand on a corner there and hear someone yelling at you to cross, but it was actually coming from the unit, so.
Hurry up.
Yeah, they could do anything.
Thank you for the leadership on that. Appreciate it. I'm sure everyone else there does as well. All right, ordinance's first reading. Tonight we introduced ordinance number 02-2025. It's an ordinance to amend the Lambertville City Code 2014, Chapter 7, traffic to install an handicap parking space in front of 47 Delaware Avenue, requested by John Rangakis. Public hearing for this would be scheduled for March 20th. If approved, we would authorize the installation of a handicap space in front of 47 Delaware Avenue. Any questions from council on this? We do this pretty regularly. So I would ask for a motion to introduce ordinance number 02-2025 on first reading with the public hearing scheduled for March 20th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The next is ordinance number 03-2025. This is an ordinance of the city of Lambertville and the county of Hunterdon, New Jersey, providing for environmental investigation and remediation of Olive Park in and for the city, appropriating $140,000 therefore and authorizing the issuance of $140,000 in general improvement bonds or notes to the city to finance the same. So this will fund additional improvements associated with the environmental investigation and remediation of Cavallo Park. I did send out in Lambertville Matters, you know, kind of what's happening there. It's been a long story. Bill and I have been working on a number of things related to the park since 2022. It's important that we appropriate these funds. We may not end up spending them all. It depends on what the initial testing, with the next round of testing is. But this is kind of the outside figure for testing and potential remediation. We're very sorry to have to close the park. Believe me, I've heard from a number of residents on this. I've had conversations with the Parks and Rec chair to see if there are other ways that we can compensate for the loss of this park for a lot of young children. I know that they were going to be moving some of the swings over to Ely Field. And we're open to suggestions from the community about other ways in which we can create space or use existing space in a way that is both safe and available for the children of the city. I do not know how long this park is going to be closed. I would think at a minimum, it's probably fair to say 6 months by the time we go through all of the, you know, the bonding and the testing and the results and any potential remediation. We'll certainly keep everybody informed about the status of it as we move forward. So are there any concerns or questions with introducing this ordinance from the council? Yes.
Just a question. So, as we look into this, if we determine that one of the contractors did something inappropriate, I would assume we're going to be looking to recoup this if possible.
Bill, yes, I've had a conversation with Bill about this. Absolutely. I mean, this is a problem that goes back to 2017, right? So, what's that? Before that, yeah, 2015, 2013, something like that. So absolutely, we're exploring that. There's still We have a lot of information that we've gathered, just in the last few weeks. As soon as it became apparent that we needed to do this, we did not wait. We closed it very quickly once we determined that that was the best, course of action. But there's still a lot of there's still a lot of documents to be gathered. We've got to go back. I just had a conversation with, I think, was it you today or somebody today about some further research about potential documents the city might have. Anyway, we'll talk about it and keep everybody informed. There's a mountain of paperwork with this, and as I said, I feel bad that we have to close the park, but it's the safest thing to do, and obviously the clear decision.
Question.
Yes.
I don't recall how much the Green Acres funding we will be getting at the end of the day.
So, yes, thank you for bringing that up. So this started because in 2022, we became aware that we were at risk of losing the Green Acres funding of $300,000 because we were missing two components that Green Acres required. We were missing the RAO, which is the acronym for the
Response action outcome.
response action outcome, which is tied into the remediation and the paperwork around that, and also that we didn't have the deed for the park. So the city has since acquired the deed. We now own the park. The RAO was never we could never submit it because the LSRP, the licensed site remediation professional, did not, the report was not submitted as part of the RAO, and we've been trying to work through this now for about 3 years. That's where we are. And I will note, it's important to note that the Green Acres funding expired in December of 2024 with this. We started talking to Green Acres about this specific problem in the summer. It's well documented with Green Acres. They've been very generous in terms of understanding the situation. We've been sending them weekly or bi-monthly or bi-weekly kind of status reports. They've indicated that they will still, if we're making forward motion, work with us to provide the funding once whatever needs to happen happens. But I really have to stay on top of it because the funding expired in December. For this, it was, I don't remember how long ago it was first obligated, but I don't remember the exact time frame.
Then they've allowed us to, as long as we've been following up with them, they've kept it open.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
Bill.
So is it still, it's still open?
It's still open.
It's still,
Yeah.
it's still
It's
there.
still
Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
they sent a letter last summer basically saying, if you don't do anything by December 31st, you're losing it.
Right.
We've maintained contact with them
Yes.
a lot since then to make
Yes.
sure it's still.
Yeah.
So we could still get the money to pay to get it done, so to speak.
Well,
Did they adjust that for inflation?
no, they did not. All right, any other questions about this? We will be talking about it on a regular basis. As I have information, we will be talking about it. I'm very mindful of the park is closed. And we're doing the best to move this along as quickly as possible. So that I would entertain a motion to introduce ordinance number 03-2025 with on first reading of the public hearing scheduled for March 20th, 2025.
We'll move.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Moving on to ordinance's second reading, ordinance number 01-2025. This ordinance authorizes the extension of the lease agreement between the city of Lambertville and Fisherman's Mark for the use of the portion of the property owned by the city and located at 260 North Main Street. So I've already talked about this in the meeting. I will now open this up to the public. If anybody has any questions or concerns about this, please step up to the podium. Try to get online. Okay. The person online would speak.
Judy, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, thank you. Judy Gleason, 86 North Union Street. I guess I don't really understand how this process works because although a couple of weeks to March 14th seems like we have loads of time after we've had 9 months and it wasn't enough time. I'm not sure I understand why there has been no action or discussion or consideration of directing the planner to do something about the other sites. Tonight, we're running out of time, and I practiced law for many years, so I know it's not the last chance. But I never like to go into a judge acting as though I know it's not the last chance. I want to be ready even when it's early in the process, and I'm sort of concerned that this gets brought up every month or every meeting and nothing happens.
Judy, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is public comment period on the ordinance, the lease agreement with Fisherman's Mark.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, we'll give you a chance to come back in just a couple of minutes, for the second public, comment period. Yeah. Anybody else online? Okay, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing for ordinance number 01-2025. So move.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, unless there is any further question or concern from the council, I would ask the motion to adopt ordinance number 01-2025 as second reading during. So move. Second, all seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the motion carries. Correspondence, we had a letter from NJDOT regarding the reduction in the speed limit, traffic regulation order 2024-18. So this, I think I've talked a little bit about this in the past. We have approved for reduction in speed from the West Animal Township line on 29 to milepost 1807 to 1848, which is Knob Road. We have no idea where that is, but I think it's around 101 South Main Street. That the reduction there would be from 40 mile per hour to 35 miles per hour. And then from that location to the let's see, zone B to Mount Hope Street will be 25 miles an hour. Do I have this right? Yeah. This isn't
The
seen.
letters that.
Okay, yeah, so that was my understanding, just the way that I'm reading this is a little confusing.
It is confusing.
So yeah, so it's 35 miles, it's now 35 miles an hour from the city line to about 101 South Main Street. From 101 South Main Street to the traffic light, it goes from 35 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour. Okay, so the signage will be installed at some point by the DOT, so keep an eye out for it.
Can we get Lieutenant Brown there to get some tickets out right away so people notice the change?
It's a very generous attitude you've got there, Councilman Lyon.
It's gonna be one.
That's being bad.
I'm a rental car. It's screwed.
Board appointments, I'd like to open the following nominations, Gordon Burke to serve on the Rights Council and Cynthia Richards to serve on the Shade Tree Commission. So thank everybody information about these two nominations. Any questions about? Okay, would someone please make a motion? Second. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thanks. All right, ongoing projects, don't have too much here. I did note that we did have a lot of water this weekend on Sunday, and I was pleased to see that essentially a ditch behind the school behaved very well and moved the water down where it needed to go. So I was pleased about that. The final regulatory hurdle for the USDA project behind the firehouse, not the USDA. Yeah, the USDA project behind the firehouse has been met. The Hunterdon County Soil Conservation District granted approval for that project. I'm meeting with Princeton Hydro on Tuesday to discuss the bid. Hoping that the bid will go out in the next week or two. And we'll get that into construction just as quickly as possible. That did flood on Sunday. I was up there with Lester. It was one of the areas that flooded. And he had to get the backhoe out, kind of deal with that. So I joined everyone at the firehouse and being very excited and eager to have that under construction. Let's see. I think that's all I have to say on ongoing projects. Just a couple of announcements. We are looking for a parking enforcement officer part-time. There's a position, the primary responsibility is to ensure that drivers comply with the local parking laws, ordinances, and issue citations for violations. Most officers are assigned to a particular geographical area, which they patrol and monitor violations such as parking, no parking zone, fire meters, and other types of illegal parking. Officers may also be responsible for collecting money from parking meters. These are Saturday and Sunday for approximately 14 hours a week. Candidate Enfield is 18 years old. Who has a valid New Jersey with driver's license from past criminal history background check. If any of you are looking for some work, contact Lieutenant Brown. Got them posted. I think it's posted on the city website now. Posted on the city website, and we put it out in number of hours. One other announcement, and I will be posting this as soon as the draft becomes final. The finance team did meet with S&P last week or 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago. And the call went very well. We've got the draft affirming our AA rating. And the language in the draft, which I'm not going to share, is very positive. So we'll wait till that's finalized, and I will post that to the city website. They do know in particular, which is this is not a I can share this. We ended the year last year with a fund balance increase of about $54,000. So that should be something that we can all celebrate. Please note that you can go to the website for all our news. We also post on Facebook news announcements. When someone gets posted on Facebook, it simultaneously gets posted to the city website. So please continue to look at either at the city's page on Facebook or the website if you ever have a question about street cleaning or trash changes and that kind of thing. Monday, February 17th, which we've already passed. We're going to talk about that. Dog and cat licenses.
I'm sorry, I thought that was all for this.
That's okay. Dog and cat licenses are due no later than 28th to avoid late fee. Landlord registrations are due no later than March 31st to avoid late fee. Right, and we will open it up to the second public participation. Constituent Ms. Jones, saying on the reply, 3 minutes. Please say your name and address.
Paul Stevens, 39 Quarry Street. As you're all aware, I try to attend as many of these meetings as I can. I try to follow up online afterwards. I have to admit that earlier tonight, when I heard that there is some consideration of Fisherman's Mark buying part of property up at the Lawson site, I couldn't believe it, because that's the one area that we own, that we have control over, and with the predicament we're in on affordable housing right now to sell off part of the property and we have control of without it contributing, and maybe it will contribute, I don't know, like I say, this is the first I've heard about it. To our affordable housing, we need 5 units now, all right? We're not going to get a project with a set aside for 100 units for which we will get the 5. It's going to have to come from some sort of city nonprofit coordination or something like this. And the most critical thing in my mind is getting back in compliance, and it becomes even more critical now that they're starting to threaten legal action. So to think about selling off part of the land that we actually have control of makes no sense to me. Okay, and then my other comment is, if we get talking crosswalks, please have them use Vern's voice on it.
Will do.
I'm just gonna, so, you know, there's a couple different sections, obviously. There's the log cabin section where we are actively planning an affordable housing, project, which would be 100% affordable there. And so the hope is that we're gonna be able to move those units that were originally on the police site, that were out of compliance. We've got to work on putting them on that part of the property with the log cabinets. So we're absolutely, that is a priority. There's been discussion on that, and I think that, that's the immediate need right away. And what you said is exactly right. We've got to get back to compliance.
Well, the other thing though is we also have the 4th round. Okay, and so selling off anything up there doesn't make sense until we have a complete plan for the whole site. And I said this a year ago. These one-off things are eating away at the flexibility we have and the potential we have. And I don't know how to explain it any better than that.
Thank you, Paul. We have talked about the sale of the farm market repeatedly. Is that not true in public meetings? Many times.
So I'll make it my comment.
Thank you. But I would also note that in these conversations about selling the farm market that we have had now for probably the better part of a year and a half, you know, we're also mindful of the debt to purchase the property. And that, while, you know, the council seems, you know, just premature to say, but, you know, while we're considering giving part of the property to affordable housing, you know, we're also mindful of our fiduciary responsibilities and selling the part of the farm market to Fisherman's Mark for more than the appraised value is a good way for us to pay down the part of the debt on that. And so we're not gonna go back and forth here, but I'm happy to have a conversation with you about this, but we're, you know, we have talked about this repeatedly, so thank you.
Jeff Tittle, 33 Wilson Street. I wanted to follow up a little bit on Covella Park. Do we know what types of chemicals that they found in the soil? This was soil that was brought in from what I was able to figure out a little bit online. Is there any real knowledge of what's in that soil? Because it was cleaned up. There's supposed to be a liner, and then clean fill was supposed to be put on top. That was the work plan.
There was no certification. In the end, we lack a certification for the clean fill. So Bill, do you want to handle this? I'm happy to, but.
Yeah, we do. I don't want to misstate them. Okay. We do have the information. It's available. We can make it known.
Well, I mean, I'm concerned for two reasons. One, the grandkids have played there for a long time, and other kids, and you know, little ones in particular tend to play around in the soil more. I mean, the barrier of the wood chips was really a good thing to do. Plus, it's better than that rubber that gives off, you know, toxic chemicals. The other thing too is soil's supposed to be manifested. It's contaminated, so there should have been a manifest, and it should have been a manifest of what came on the site. And then the second piece, and this is a bill that this is a law, by the way, I did not support. I opposed it. I got yelled at, senator sponsored it because it gives too much power to the licensed site professional who signed up. An ROA is similar to what's called an NFA, but they can't do that because that would be illegal, because that's saying it's a government action. It's actually a private action under the law. So the LSRP, who was in charge of testing the remediation plan, carrying off on the remediation plan, and then signing off with the ROA, he has a license, and you got to find out what this guy did. If he allowed contaminated soil to come on that property, it's his responsibility, not just a contractor with him. And you can go after his license. You can also go after them for damage. Because the other thing that's also scary under New Jersey standards, cleanup standard for a playground is actually lesser than it is for a house. Even though they're children, because it's open air. They figure with the VOCs get to evaporate or whatever. So it's a serious issue, and the town has to really go after whoever that licensed professional was, and who you know, who signed off on it, where the soil came from, and that segues me into the hill. If they bring in an LSRP up there, we can't trust them. In other towns, I tell the town where I've worked to bring in their own, because if this guy can screw up a playground, what can they do on that hill where we have an unlined landfill that's never been closed, a former factory, dumping all over the place, illegal dumping, soils from an orchard. So hopefully we get Covella Park fixed, because you know, soon, because the kids in this town, on the south end of town, we have nothing. To go up to Ely Field, when my granddaughter was 2, she'd walk up there and I had to carry her back. So my back was killed. But anyway, I think this park is a good lesson on why we should be building residential on contaminated sites.
Jesse Billers, 8 Church Street. I'll keep my comment short. I just wanted to sincerely say thank you to the city council. I know you all have a lot on your plate right now, and you're doing an excellent job with it. So I really appreciate you taking the time to consider this. I really appreciate y'all doing your due diligence. I really appreciate you keeping the community in mind. And I really appreciate the opportunity to continue this conversation with the retail hours. So again, just sincerely thank you.
Are capable of juggling a little bit. So happy to do it.
Oh, John Townsend, 14 Hancock. A couple of quick things. Thank you for remembering 179. Because that crosswalk. All Second, parks, don't forget about the park up on Hancock Street. That could use some love if you're gonna be moving equipment, just saying, sorry, it's not gonna help your back.
I'm not gonna drive up there. Though.
Oh, okay, okay. Thirdly, I don't know if the city still owns the property or not. Directly across from, well, in front of CVS, if you will. When I came here in the eighties, there were 4 houses that sat there. I believe those were, I mean, they were bulldozed, I know that, because we did live fire drills there. But that were burn drills. Anyway, keep that in mind. Those are actually, it's either 4 or 5 building lots that, unless CVS owns that, I don't know that they do. That's,
John, we own it, and as part of our open space inventory, we purchased it with open space funds.
okay.
It's deeded as a park, an open space fund, open parking.
So that's that between 29 and
29.
Yeah, the other side.
On Cherry Street.
yeah, Cherry and Main.
Sorry, in North Union.
I'm lost.
Well, no, North Main, the other
Oh,
side.
North Main. Sorry, North Main. I apologize.
Yeah, North Main.
I think the city does own part of that, but it's not as big as what it may have been back then.
Well, I'm sorry, can we clarify where we're talking about? Because I don't understand.
We're talking about the park on Cherry Street.
No. I moved to a different subject. I apologize.
Okay, sorry.
If you're coming down into town, here's Cherry Lane. Here's CVS and the property directly in front of CVS,
Oh.
basically across from the steps that go to wherever. That was building lots back in the day. I don't know why we don't.
I think it's part of the CVS lot, right? I mean, it's all that one lot.
They only think CVS owned up until the end of their lot. I don't think they owned all the way up to the.
Do you mean the spot, you know, where the collector is for the clothes in the CVS lot? Are you saying that it faces 29, there were houses along that?
Where people put political signs too, yeah.
Yeah.
On that, but I don't think it's as wide as it was, because I don't think. Remember,
I don't think we do. There was one house there, and it was closer to Village Apartments. And that was taken down. You can actually see part of the foundation is still there, the wall. But that's the only thing from my memory that I ever remember having.
I thought there were at least 3 or 4 houses there, maybe 5.
Oh,
back
it's
in the
easy
day.
to look at the tax map and see.
I mean, it's maybe something for us to utilize to meet our affordable housing. That's all. Thank you.
So while we're talking about affordable housing, I would just like to encourage everybody to come to the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee meeting on Wednesday night, including council members. One of the things that we're gonna be doing this week, Clark has drafted a map. We do have a spreadsheet of all viable sites for affordable housing in the city. We will be talking about those sites publicly. I'm sending a letter to all property owners this week, who have properties that may be a viable for affordable housing. So, you know, we'll have a big map there and people can see.
And just like John said too, if there are properties that we're not aware of, that's the purpose of this committee, to let us know about them so we can inventory them and put them on the map. We're color coded, we're sort of kind of prioritizing and ranking on, you know, what is the most feasible, what are we gonna get out of it in terms of our obligation, and so, yeah, I mean, more people have information about that, come to the committee meeting, email us, let us know.
This is a question, Dave Bird, 255 Brunswick Avenue. This is a question, if the city has some property in Green Acres, is there some mechanism, all right, if it's needed for another purpose, that restriction can be removed, i.e. affordable housing?
Well,
No.
Yeah,
What's
it's just a
something that, used to do this, but it's you have to, not only, you have to go through a pretty extensive process, takes a couple of years, but you do have to, you don't necessarily, approval isn't automatic, but you also have to replace the property in kind, and it's like a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1, 3-to-1.
it's 3-to-1.
Say 3-to-1, so you really, you have to provide 3 more times the property to be able to do that. They aren't very often granted, reduce that, and that's the reason why it's on our open space inventory. And we utilize the Green Acres money and participate in the program for the ability to, you know, keep it open in perpetuity.
Right, but if there's a municipal need, all right, and again, I work on logic, so that's probably if the state government.
Right, but that's when.
That's not true.
Yeah, but then we have to find 3 times more the property, so it's kind of like you.
Property up on the hill,
You can't,
we want to keep green.
right, it's already in, unfortunately. Hey, yeah, right, it's
Yeah.
like, let's not talk about that one.
Yeah. Just that, I think it's worth somebody asking a question in today and with this situation. And, you know, because we're in a hard spot, all right, and that would give us, you know, some housing, there's already sewer, there's already road. And gas, all right, and, you know, the Green Acres is wonderful. All right, but we, you know, we have other needs right now, and it may be a way, it's worth a question, it's worth asking.
Just to follow up on your statement, when we were running, for office, we looked at, other areas to be developing, or maybe it was before that time. But, cause Julia was the mayor. Oh, that's right, yeah, okay. I inquired about just what you said. And it does require, as Bill said, a certain amount of exchange of property, and at that time, I don't think we owned the hill yet. But what,
No, we did not.
the cost of property,
No, we did.
but there was so that came up in discussion because there was a plan at one time when the current owner of the property was gonna develop it. And put in maybe 8 townhouses along there. So I think it was a challenge that we couldn't meet, just swap the properties often. But it doesn't hurt to ask.
Ask the
Yeah.
question, all right, and look at it as a way of, you know, because I'm sure we didn't get that much money, you know, to pay for it originally.
It wasn't cheap, but
Yeah, so, but I would certainly think, I mean, that would, if you say 8, that could be a big hit towards your round 4.
absolutely.
So,
The only thing I would just say is that, is often, almost always complicated by how it's gonna be paid for, right? So when we've been talking to Habitat for Humanity, we already had a conversation tonight about what's the funding, right? So in a situation like if we're considering Habitat up at the Oakland Park, we own the land, right? So so that's great. It makes it much more doable. But there are other financial considerations, and you know, they have to find their funding, and then we have to chip in some part of ours. So you know, the funding on any project can be very complicated. I'm sure Carolyn could speak to this or done any of this stuff before. So it's just another thing that we have to be thinking about, even if we have land. It's how who's gonna pay for it.
funding is about complicated at the bird's nest sometimes, so, but, yeah, I understand what you're saying. Thank you.
Ms. Gleason want to speak? Okay.
Steph, speak first, because your hand has been up longer.
Okay.
Stephanie, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I just have Stephanie Moss, 12 Delavan Street. Just a comment with regard to the cannabis expanded hours, if you will. That might make it a little bit easier from a standpoint of, if you looked at it from a standpoint of micro dispensary expanded hours as opposed to a non-micro dispensary. You're looking at within the CBD district. So a micro dispensary might be able to go to the other end, to the 9 p.m., as opposed to one that is going to have more business coming through, if you will. than what the micro dispensary is allowed to give. So I'm just wondering if in the ordinance, it might be able to say micro dispensaries are allowed to go from X to 9 as opposed to any of the non-micro dispensaries. I just think I have to agree with the Bake by the River that they're there in the central business district, where they have shops and bars that are open past the 7 o'clock time. So as opposed to say the Jersey Girls or the Union Shell or any of the others that are being considered. But if you looked at it from a micro dispensary standpoint, it would be an easy fix. Just a thought, thinking about that. Second thing is talking about dog poop, if you will. Karen, I totally get the the one by the post office that gets filled up because gosh knows my dog and I dispose of ours. And Cindy, I did not know that there was an ordinance that I couldn't put it into the city's trash. I will learn. But I totally get that. I always call it either voting or doing sending a letter. I think the more important issue is the fact that people don't pick up their poop. It's not so much that they get rid of their poop, it's that they don't pick it up. And I don't know, up in the village too, they have bags that are easily given. I don't know if that makes anybody go. So anyway, that's my thought process. Thank you, Lindsay. I'm done. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Definitely. Bill, do you have any response to this notion that we could potentially handle micro businesses differently than the other retails, even though they're in the same zone?
Not right now.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Bill.
No, I don't have a response right now. I'll review it. Off the top of my head.
Thanks for the idea, Stephanie. If you can hold on, we have one other person online who was before you.
Stephanie, Judy, your time is now.
Judy Gleason, 86 North Union Street. I'm just revisiting again the issue of doing something about having the planner come up with a plan with some of the properties so that we are better prepared for this motion date and better prepared for everything else. We're spending all this time now talking about this stuff as though it's a brand new idea. This has been going on for months. Please don't back us into that corner of we have to do something because it's too late and we're going to have the builder's remedy. Please don't do that. I don't know why there can't be any action taken tonight by this council to say, yes, ask the planner to come up with something with respect to the locations you're talking about. And I just heard in the last 5 minutes or 10 minutes that there's places you're talking about. So let's just move the ball here. This should not be so hard to figure out. Why don't we actually see about a plan? Thank you.
Hi, Marianne Robbins, 103 South Main Street. Love the dot plan, being on the south end of town and in that speed zone and seeing kids cross the crosswalks. I'm also wondering, eventually, if during the school hours, even at that south end of town, if we could have the flashing lights or the warnings, because the kids are crossing over the highway, not just a street. And we see them every morning, right? There's lots of teenagers, lots of little kids with their mothers and stuff going down the street. The other ask that I have, if anyone's aware of the back race, when I say the back race,
Yes.
okay. So my husband and I go there 2 or 3 times a year to clean it out because it's on the other side, it's in the back. So it's not well seen by anybody unless you're going across that little bridge. There's lots of junk, there's lots of crap, there's lots of bottles, there's lots of balls.
So I was wondering if we could assign, this has at least no dumping, at least taking a little stance, because as we were getting older, it's becoming a little bit harder to go down there with our poles and everything else to fish the stuff out. So it'd be great.
Sure, so a couple of thoughts. The crosswalk, finally, we've got one there. I've been trying to get this for 3 years, so we've got it. In terms of, I can talk to Lieutenant Brown, if the city's interested in hiring a crossing guard for that during school hours. That's something that I'm happy to talk about. I don't know whether that's possible with the DO. I don't know what we need to do, but happy to talk about that. So I'm gonna put that on my list of things to talk to Lieutenant Brown about. I'm happy to circle back. The back race is not owned by the city.
I know.
And so we can't put signage there without the DNR, Canal Parks approval. We did have, the Boy Scouts last year go in and pull out a ton of stuff, which the DPW then carted away from the parking lot in Cavallo Park. There was an encampment there. I went down and I personally sort of looked at
All that happening.
yeah, all that was happening. In fact, we just had somebody, the administrator from Titusville, contact us about, their community down along the river. Residents are frustrated by the litter there. We responded that we have to ask that, there are definitely people who in this community who go out and do the kind of thing that you're talking about. And we are part of the river, the Delaware River
The
cleanup
Friends
every
Canal, right.
September, and the DPW helps with that. But it's a question of, can we get volunteers?
So if I went to like the Friends of Delaware Canal, which I'm a member of, then we could ask them if they could put signage there, because they would be part of that state volunteer organization, I guess.
Yeah,
It's not gonna, how great.
well, yeah, my concern is that people who are
They don't
gonna
read.
throw stuff are not gonna
Right.
get on signs, right? So,
Sometimes.
yeah. It's something that's on my radar from time to time, and,
Yeah,
I'm trying, happy to sort of, organize volunteer efforts. Certainly the Parks and Rec Commission has people that volunteer, and, it's just a question of getting in there, I'm not gonna shit from the canal parks just to go and figure it out.
That's fire.
I think they would support that, so
Okay, great. Well, anyway, I can help you. So.
thank you so much.
There are lip readers out there, though.
I don't think they work for the DNR parks. Anyone else in the room?
Tweet that right at.
Maybe that's one of those things that, the sound system deleted. Right. All right, so it looks like we're all done with, public comment. I'll ask for a motion to close the public comment. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. And, we do not need to go into a second closed session at this time, so I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much for coming this evening. Always good to see everyone. Thank you.